Hey guys, welcome to the DevOps Pro channel and the Helm for Beginners series. In today's video, we will be looking at the range in Helm Chart. You can directly compare range to a for loop in any programming language. Just like how in a programming language we can iterate over any list, map, or slice using a for loop, similarly range is used inside our Helm charts to iterate over values. To understand the concept of range practically, we have a chart in our possession today where inside the template section we have a template for role binding. In this template, we are creating a role binding object in Kubernetes. Currently, we only have one user, Alice, and our role is admin. If we need to provide admin role to multiple users inside the ISI role binding object, in that case we can define a list in our values.yml file. So, inside the values file, let's create a list under the name users, in which we pass the names of 3 users Alice, Bob, and Charlie. In order to iterate over this list of users, we will use the range block inside our role binding file. So, as we want to dynamically pass the usernames in the subject section of the role binding, through that list. Here, we can use the range block on top of the kind section. For that, we need to write double curly brackets so that special characters do not appear. Then we will write a hyphen and then values.users. And at the end of this subject section, we will end this range block. As the users variable is a list of usernames, and we want to pass them into the name parameter, we need to write them inside double curly brackets with a dot here. This way our range block will iterate over our users list, and the usernames that appear in each iteration will be used here with a dot. Now, once we save the file and run the Helm install command. In the YAML file that has been generated for the role binding, you will see that the kind tag has appeared 3 times in the subject section, and the usernames from our different lists have been picked and inserted. It is working perfectly as we want. So, in this way, we can use range block from a list to pick elements from the list. So this was our first use case. In this case, our role binding object is the same, but we are assigning multiple subjects, that is, binding multiple users with admin roles. But what if we want to bind different users with different roles and create different role binding objects in the cluster for them? Right now, we have only one role binding object in which we are assigning the admin role to multiple users. But now we also want to create multiple role binding objects for each user. So, for this, we first update the user's variable inside the values file in the following way. We will create a list containing our usernames and their roles. In the first list element, we will mention the name as Alice and assign the role of admin to her. Similarly, for the other 2, we will write in the same manner. In the second list element, Bob will be the username, and we will give him the editor role, and in the third element, Charlie will be the username with the viewer role. This is how we have updated the fields in the values file. Now, the values we are passing will be used in our role binding file. We can put the entire role binding YAML file in a range block because we want to create separate role bindings objects with dynamic values. So, our range block will come at the beginning. And we will add an end section at the end of this file to close this range. As we want to create multiple role binding objects, the name of our multiple role binding objects cannot be the same. Therefore, we will dynamically set the name. So, whatever the user's name is, we will pass it as a prefix ahead and add the role binding as a suffix at the end. For the next name, we will take it by using double curly brackets .name. In each iteration, the name that we encounter will be used to create our role binding object. We will retrieve the username in double curly brackets .name from the same niche subject. And our role will appear as double curly bracket .role. I think by now you must have started to understand these things after watching so many videos. How we are fetching the values of this list of objects from our values file by writing .name and .role. Let's save the file and now run the Helm install command. This time when the files will be generated, if you carefully observe, it will create 3 role binding objects for us. In the first object, our user will be Alice and the role assigned will be admin, and the name of that role binding object will be Alice role binding. The second role binding object will be named Bob role binding, in which the user will be Bob and the role assigned will be editor. And the last role binding object will be named Charlie role binding, in which the user will be Charlie and the role assigned will be viewer. In this way, we have templated a role binding YAML file, and using the range block, we have dynamically picked values from a list variable, creating multiple role binding objects for us with different users and roles. In this way, you can use the range block inside the Helm template to iterate over any variable for performing operations. If you have any doubts after watching today's video, please let us know in the comment section. Not only watch the video, but also try to perform the things practically by yourself. The more you use them, the clearer the concept will be to you. All the practicals we are performing in the videos, you can find the files for them on our GitHub repository, and the link for the same will be available in the description box. From there, you can download these files and perform the practicals. While we are just doing a dry run, you can actually install these objects in Helm using the install command. Practice as much as you can so that all the concepts become clear to you. If you liked the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the videos with more people. Let's end this video with ISI here and see you in the next video. Thank you.